Have you ever tried the original Caesar salad recipe? I've made countless Caesar salads, but I've never actually made the OG version. And I thought, why not give it a try? I have to find out, is it worth it? Let's get cooking and learn something today. I'll take the yolks from these 2 chicken eggs. Yolks are an emulsifier to keep our acid and oil together in our dressing without breaking. The flavor profile for yolks is interestingly mildly sweet, which will be good as I won't add any sugar to this recipe. Yolks and olive oil will coat the tongue in fat, so I'll need a pungent flavor to punch through, and that pungency will come from raw garlic. Set one to the side for my croutons later. I'll peel those 2 cloves of garlic and mince them very small. I'll even give them a few passes for size and consistency. But what about salt in this dressing? This is where anchovy fillets come into the recipe. The real reason for making this recipe today, I have some anchovies sitting in the fridge from my recent video cooking anchovy and tomato pasta. The jar says I need to eat these anchovies within 3 days of opening. Well, it's been about 6 days. But I feel like big anchovy is just gaslighting me into thinking that these tiny little fish preserved in heaps of salt are gonna go bad quickly. If this video becomes my last, you know what happened. I was wrong. I'll need these anchovy fillets to disperse throughout the sauce so that the anchovy flavor is in the background and not a punch you in the face hit of salty fish. Therefore, I'm gonna have to smash these up into my little mushroom bowl here and then add them right into our big bowl of ingredients. This dressing required a bit more punch though, so I'll need a bit of the old Grey Poupon, one of my favorite condiments, Dijon mustard. This isn't Grey Poupon, but rather a brand that I know I'll just mispronounce if I try to say it. Mustard is an emulsifying agent, but we already have egg yolks here, so I think it's added more for the bitter flavor and the nice pop it'll bring into the dressing. Every dressing needs an acid, otherwise it's just gonna taste like flavored oil. For this Caesar, I'm gonna be using lemon juice. After I cut this in half, I'll juice the whole lemon. The lemon juice should chemically cook the egg yolks, reducing some of the bacteria from the raw egg yolk. But I wouldn't take that as an endorsement to eat raw egg yolk if you have some sort of gut issues. And I'll add this lemon juice into the bowl so it can chemically cook these eggs. I don't know what happened, but I get ahead of myself here and I begin adding the olive oil. I still have a few ingredients that I needed to add, but I just grabbed the olive oil and started to go. So for this dressing to come together, I need to emulsify the egg yolk and oil. If I add the oil too quickly at the beginning, the whole thing will split. So I'm gonna drizzle it in nice and slow, whisking as I go. Only when it starts to thicken up, I can go faster. Otherwise, it's game over. And luckily, egg is a very easy emulsifier to work with. It's like bowling with bumper lanes. I give it a taste and it hits me. This is way too acidic. How am I gonna fix this without drowning out the other flavors? I think I'm just gonna have to balance the lemon juice out with a bit more olive oil. And that does taste better, but the dressing is still too sharp. The big missing component is Parmesan cheese. I'll grate up a bunch of Parmesan cheese on my box grater. Parmesan cheese's flavor profile is a bit sweet, nutty, and also salty. It is an umami bomb of savory flavor as well. So a lot going on with Parmesan cheese. And I know I've said umami a couple times, and you can really think of that as like a very savory flavor that really completes a dish. And adding this Parmesan in the dressing now should help some of that acidic flavor I'm getting from the lemon juice, while bringing its own salty and cheesy flavor to the dressing. I taste it again and something's still off. It's so close, but not quite there. And then it hits me. This Worcestershire sauce that's been literally staring me in the face. Along with umami from anchovies used in the sauce, we'll have some tangy, sweet, and salty flavors coming through with this sauce. And that was the missing piece. I can't eat a Caesar salad without big, crunchy croutons. I have a bit of baguette from the freezer that I'm just gonna try and hunk up here. I don't want anything too uniform. I would like for the crouton to be a bit on the bigger side. But I am cutting this a bit goofy and too big, so I'm just gonna go back and bring a couple of them down in size. I'll put my pan on low-medium heat and toss in a hunk of butter to melt down. I'm also gonna throw in that garlic clove we set aside for some added depth of flavor. The butter is browning, and I'll get my cut bread into the pan here before we create some black butter that I don't want. Toasting this bread will give it that crunch we need, and I see some bread that still looks a bit too big for me. I'll just jump in here and burn my fingers by tearing these hot butter-soaked pieces of bread into smaller pieces. The croutons are golden and crispy. The smell of butter and caramelized garlic is filling the kitchen. It's got such a warm, nutty, brown butter smell going on in the kitchen right now. I'm just gonna have to take a little chef bite. Take a little crouton. Some pieces are starting to get dark brown in some areas, and I don't want to burn any of these precious croutons, so I'll pull these off the heat and set them aside to cool off a bit before completing the salad. Once this romaine gets coated with the dressing, the crispiness of the salad really starts to leave very, very quickly. So I want to dress this and taste as fast as possible. Time is really one of the biggest enemies of a great salad. I see I still have a bit of extra dressing at the bottom of the bowl. Waste not, want not. So I'm gonna add a bit more romaine here to use up all of the dressing. Time to plate up, and I got this new bowl. I'm excited about some of these new dishes I've bought from my videos recently. I'll build up the salad in the center of the bowl. I need the crunchiness, so I'll have my big crouton pieces. The salad looks a little plain, so a bit of Parmesan cheese and black pepper on the top will give it a nice garnish that adds a bit of flavor and texture. This looks great, but how does it taste, and how much of a pain in the ass was this dish? We've got to know. Time to taste and rate. The romaine leaves aren't cut, so this will be a fork and knife job. The first bite is light and fresh. Nothing like the heavy mayonnaise-based Caesar dressings I've had before. The crisp romaine is really evenly coated with that tangy, umami-rich dressing. The Parmesan adds just the right amount of salty and nutty flavor, while those croutons are delicious, giving it a nice satisfying crunch. It's all really come together nicely. Overall, I'll have to give this recipe an 8 out of 10 stars for taste. If I made this again tomorrow, I would reduce the lemon juice by about 30%. For the pita rating, I have to say, this one's a breeze. Simple ingredients, minimal dishes, no chasing down rare items. 10 out of 10 on the pita scale, which is a great score for something so tasty. Classic Caesar salad is worth making, and I can recommend you try it.